Hey everybody, Nancy here from American Pet Professionals, and welcome back to another Tuesday episode of Digging into the Pet Industry. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube as well. So wherever you are watching from, thank you so much for watching. And if you're listening to a future podcast episode, thank you so much for listening in. I am so excited to bring to you today and introduce to you American Pet Professionals member Karen Bartoszek of Pet Friendly Works. Welcome, Karen.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be here.
Thank you for being here. This is one of my favorite topics about being pet friendly. So we've talked about it a couple of times on the show with a few other members, and I am always excited about it because I like to bring my dog Cody as many places as possible, and of course where he is allowed. But like he's been on stage with me in hotels and road trips and everything. So I'm really happy that you're here to talk about what you do with Pet Friendly Works.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's dig in. Can you tell us how you got started in the pet industry? Backtrack a little bit before we jump into what you do at Pet Friendly Works.
Okay, absolutely. That's great. Actually, great question because it really takes me back to where did I start? Why did I get into this? Actually, this is like long time ago. I actually got started back in 1996.
Wow.
But there's a whole story to that. It's when I got my first dog on my own. Her name was Sabrina, and I just wanted to do something around pets and travel. And pet friendly really wasn't a thing back then.
No, yeah.
Yeah, and there was opportunity. I could see that there was opportunity. So I actually attended Super Zoo in 1996.
Wow. Was that still in San Diego still?
Yeah. No, it was actually at the Long Beach Convention Center. And it was so much fun. It's like going there, all the products. And the challenge I had was, I was, how do you leave? I was in a corporate job, and it's like, how do you leave a steady paycheck and the benefits? And it kind of like had me keep my pet business aspirations, had me keep those on the back burner.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I never stopped. I never stopped researching, never stopped watching this industry. And I had the opportunity. I worked for IBM, had a wonderful corporate career with AT&T and then IBM. And during the last few years with IBM, I was traveling a ton. And when I was at hotels, I kept seeing more and more pets. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
And it's like there wasn't a whole lot that was being done to promote pets and in the travel space. And it was one of those, if not now, when? So I was like, okay, so I think this is time. It's getting there. So this was 2016. So 20 years after my first Super Zoo, I went again. And this was in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like so much larger.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I took that leap of faith. I stepped away from IBM and I started my pet friendly business, which the initial focus really was, it was back on the whole hospitality space and creating amazing pet experiences was my whole concept. And actually trademark that too.
I saw that. Yeah.
But that was my leap. And I know on your call I was listening to yesterday with, was it Ronald Wentz?
Yep.
And you were talking about the importance of getting involved in your local chamber and participating. I did that. I cannot tell you how much I agree with that statement because, I got involved in the local chamber and I met the CEO for our local SPCA. She reached out to me and she said, we've got an opportunity with the local city, to create their first pet friendly initiative. Would you be interested in helping? And I was like, okay, it wasn't something I'd really considered. I was focused on the hospitality, but now it's like a city. And like, okay, well, that's really an interesting concept because, it's that phrase of a rising tide lifts all boats. And this was like, okay, so if you have a city that embraces pet friendly and they're proclaiming their city is pet friendly, it just radiates out to the businesses, to the hospitality space, to rental housing operators, to so many, even nonprofits. And it kind of empowers them to embrace pet inclusive practices. And it can be so powerful. So that was kind of my my first pivot.
Wow.
Okay, let me expand my scope because I think this really makes sense. And, you know, the other part of that too is, you know, kind of thinking back to, it was the SPCA director, CEO that actually brought me into this. But when a city does the whole pet friendly initiative and the businesses start getting on board, it radiates back out to the shelters, because if you make your city pet friendly, more animals get adopted because there's more places for them to live and, you know, live happy, healthy lives. So it just came together.
That's incredible. So I love that you were like focused on hospitality and somebody said, "Hey, what about this?" And you were like, "Oh, I wasn't even thinking that." But yeah, that all makes sense. It all ties together. And you know, that's pretty incredible, and it's so true. It trickles down to the pets, right? And that's one of the things that I always say here with our organization, right? We want to work together, we want to build everybody up and help support our businesses, but we also want everything to trickle down to the pets and their quality of life. And that has been in our mission statements since we started. So I absolutely love that. So you started that in 2016, and now, you know, I know you had a different business name, and now you're Pet Friendly Works, which works, by the way. So can you tell us what the core mission is of Pet Friendly Works?
So we are an organizational development firm, and we have a specialty focus on pet friendliness. And how do you incorporate pet friendliness, the human-animal bond, into organizations and help promote the health of the organization, as well as the health and well-being of the people that, and when I say organizations, I'm going to say businesses, workplaces, and cities. But it's promoting that health and well-being for the people that live there and work there and play there.
Yeah. So with that, you know, with that mission statement and who you are helping, going back to the city that you helped back in 2016-17, what was that initiative? What did that consist of?
So that was actually, it was the mayor, and actually this a tie back, and actually I got to share a little bit more too about just the resources that are out there to help in this type of, in a pet friendly space. But the mayor is actually St. Petersburg, Florida, and the mayor of St. Pete had gone to a U.S. Conference of Mayors event, and Mars Pet Care was there with their Better Cities for Pets program. And he proclaimed the city pet friendly, and came back and said, okay, and had a proclamation on the city hall steps. And it was like, okay, so now where do we go from here?
Right.
It's like all these different directions. But organizations, there's amazing organizations out there that are helping to put together frameworks that you can base your programs on. And Mars Pet Care, you know, they look at housing, they look at shelters, they look at parks, they look at businesses. And we use that as a template. And it's like, okay, we brought the team together, and it's like, okay, what's the vision? Okay, so we know we've been proclaimed pet friendly, but where do we go from here? What's the mission? Where do you want to go with this?
Right.
And it was pulling together an amazing team. You know, we started out with a small team, and then expanded out and pulled in people from the veterinary community. We pulled people in from the insurance community. We kind of looked at too as like, okay, what is it that's, you know, what skill sets, what areas do we, you know, are still needed, so that we can help make this a very robust program that really does make a difference in the community.
That's really incredible. So you didn't just like I was thinking when you said, he said that, you know, we're pet friendly, like, yeah, that's a great PR ribbon cutting thing. But from there, then what? So I love that he did that and then said to you, okay, like, what's next? And you guys kind of pulled out with a larger magnifying lens and like, okay, these are the things that we really need to focus on. You can claim that you're pet friendly, but going through all the experts and everything that you did, that's really incredible. So that template can probably just be replicated, and you could do that across the country, working with other towns and cities. Is that something that you're looking to do?
I would love to. Yeah, actually, yeah, absolutely, because it can be replicated, and I think it needs to be replicated.
Yes.
And what I see kind of in my role is there's amazing templates that are available like that can be replicated, but you need the role to come in to say, okay, so we have this now. How do we look at what what are our strengths? What are the good things and the strengths that we have here? What are the challenges? And how do we make this program uniquely ours? How do we build it into the fabric of the community or the fabric of the organization, into our culture? How do we do that? So that's the purpose of a pet friendly consultant.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And how often are you working with like not just cities and towns, but like organizations, corporate, because during the pandemic, right, when everybody started to have to go back into the office, and of course we heard the stories that people were like, I'm not going back because I can't bring my pet. A lot more places became pet friendly to work with. Have you worked with implementing, pet friendliness and safetyness, in with corporate companies?
That is actually something I'm working on now because I think about this. And a lot of times, like, okay, so kind of step back, and you kind of and I kind of talked about this a little bit, but a lot of times people are like, okay, well, okay, pet friendly, why do we need somebody to step in and help? But I think sometimes it helps just to kind of have like a what if, imagine if.
Yeah.
So when you talk about like a pet friendly workplace, so one of my imagine ifs are, talking to people and say, imagine if you're returning to the office and it's been, 3 years. We've been working from home. You and your fur baby have like connected at the hip.
Yeah.
You're concerned. You're thinking, okay, now that my manager said, okay, it's time. We're gonna, call you back into the office. You're thinking, okay, my pet's gonna have separation anxiety. I'm gonna have separation anxiety. How do we deal with this? And then you get a call from your manager, and your manager says, okay, we know you have a pet. We know, we're asking, a big step to come back in. How can we accommodate your pet? You're welcome to bring your pet with you to work, and how can we accommodate that? So, and it just, you kind of step back and go, imagine if your manager actually said that and made that call, and like,
Yeah.
wow, oh my gosh, you just took this like stress off my plate. And so me, stepping in, working with the workplace, it's like, okay, so how do you make that happen? I know, how do we make sure the workplace is accessible? How do we make sure that we're being respectful to people that aren't comfortable being around pets? How do we
Right.
make sure we're complying with all the HR rules? How do we, insurances and everything like that? So that is my role. So, this wonderful scenario to be able to present that to an employee who is coming back into the office, but, working with the organization to help them make that possible.
To me, your role is so genius because that will help any company, even if it's a smaller scale company that wants to say, we have 5 employees and we want them to be able to bring their pets in every once in a while or all the time. We don't know what we're doing, right? Because I was
Mhm.
just saying that yesterday to somebody that, we're so deep into the pet industry as pet professionals that we pay attention to everything, we see everything. And then when you meet pet parents or a employer that wants to be pet friendly, they might not know all the things that we know, right? Or all the strategies.
Yeah.
So I think what you're doing is really incredible. Can you give us an example of a town or city that was not pet friendly and maybe changed, and now what the positives have brought that community?
Um, Gosh, that's a tough one because,
Or a corporation?
well, even now, even what I can say that, if I'm just kind of going back to even like with St. Pete,
Yeah.
just watching, where we were, and then to be able to implement the pet friendly initiative. Um, what we have seen going from, actually, kind of like, okay, light bulbs going off in my head right now. Sorry.
Okay.
So we started out the program, and it was like, okay, pet friendly, and it was started out on let's celebrate. We've gotten the opportunity. We can bring pets. We can embrace more pet friendly, in pets in restaurants and local sports bars, and going along those paths. But then what we realized is we started to see that we could actually make a difference and
Hmm.
help fix and address issues. So addressing housing, that's a big
Hmm.
step.
That's a huge
And
step. Yeah.
because there's so many people that need housing and have pets, and there's restrictions. I mean, you can have a
Yes.
certain size dog, or you can have a certain kind
Ridiculous.
of dog, and and in some cases you can't have cats, and we actually shifted from, always keeping the celebration. This is a celebration. This is great. We
Right.
can do this, but we shifted to the point where we started looking at, okay, how do we help promote more pet inclusive housing?
Yeah.
And actually, that's a phrase that I was reading through the Michelson Found Animals has an amazing research
They
document.
do.
with
They do.
all the data points on how do you become a pet inclusive housing, and they differentiated. Pet friendly housing there's restrictions, but pet inclusive is away from the restrictions. It includes all animals, all breeds, all sizes.
Yeah.
I love that differentiation. But that's actually one thing that really jumped out to me to watch what was happening here, is that we made that shift. We actually started making a difference, and we started actually recognizing the communities that were pet inclusive and using them as examples to help other communities realize that, yeah, we can do this. And oh, by the way, there's a lot of really great benefits to this too.
There is. And I think that it's so cool that you mentioned that, because that has been a problem for so many people. It is getting better. I know where I live, there's always a plea for, somebody looking for an apartment. They either had to move or whatever, and they have 2 big dogs and they can't find anywhere. And it is getting better. Like, some of the apartment complexes are now realizing that they were, not helping with all these animals and people that need housing. And I know there's a few initiatives out there now that, are really pushing for no breed, no weight limits, right? And that's also very common still, and it is getting better with hotels, because some hotels, I get if somebody doesn't want to go to a hotel that has dogs, I understand, but at the same time, if you are traveling with your dog and you're looking for a hotel that's going to accommodate you and your 70-pound, really well-behaved dog that's super quiet, versus, you can have 3 little dogs that might, and this is nothing against little dogs or dogs that bark, all dogs bark, right? But, you see that with some hotels, and I've definitely seen it I've gotten a lot better over the last 5 or 6 years. Like, hotels that were never dog friendly are now like rolling out the red carpet. My dog, Cody, and I have been to, literally, they rolled out the red carpet to some schwanky hotel in New York City when they had all kinds of really cool amenities that it was so much fun. But I was like, this is really great. And I won't go, if I'm going somewhere, I won't go, and I'm taking my dog with me, I won't go to a hotel that, obviously is going to have any kind of limitations, because I don't want to get there and be like, oh, you can't come in with that dog,
Right.
So that is something, sorry, I go off on a tangent on that, but it's something that I think about.
And I got to tell you on that, I think it's a really good point, because think about too, we just went through this pandemic and we were all locked in, and it's, you're coming out of that. The world is no longer what it was in 2019, and it will never go back to what it was in 2019.
Right.
And all these people that adopted pets during that time, that have bonded, now that getting out and traveling, this is such a wonderful opportunity for hotels to really embrace pet friendly. I just keep thinking, this is like, because people are going to be traveling, and it is, there's a demand, and there's an opportunity to really boost your occupancy rates. There's a huge opportunity.
Yep, absolutely. And the hotels and the apartment buildings that do it right, the ones that collaborate with other businesses like pet friendly services, it's genius to me, because now they're helping their community with the local dog walking company, the local boarding and daycare if they don't have it, the local veterinarian, hey, there's the pet store. The ones that are doing it right are really embracing it properly. And it's, I think, a win-win for the whole community, for everybody, whether it's a small town or a big city. It makes a lot of sense.
And I got to tell you, I think that's a really good point to make, is that whole ecosystem, because that's something I've been so passionate about when you're doing pet friendly and when you're creating these programs, is pulling in the ecosystem of other pet businesses. Because number one is, there are so many, going to Global Pet Expo or going to Super Zoo, you find like people that have gotten really creative ideas and amazing products that would be great complements to a pet friendly initiative. And you partner with them and bring them in, and it's a win-win for everybody. There's a great needs that are met from the services and the products that these businesses provide. And then it also, it helps them get their name out there and promote their business. So I think it's so important to build that ecosystem. It's even like thinking like in my other imagine if scenario is a city. It's like, imagine if, and part of that is, imagine if you go to a city and you're on a website and they have all these great, amenities, and they're talking about friendly housing, or they're talking about, we've just certified with, Beth Miller's smart dog parks,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the dog parks are amazing. And it just,
yeah,
having that connectivity, having that connection, those ecosystems, I think are so valuable to the cities,
yeah.
to the businesses that are being pet friendly, and to these amazing pet vendors and services that are out there.
And pet parents that are spending money, if anybody's listening that is not pet friendly, pet parents that are spending a ton of money on their pets are seeking out pet friendly destinations, whether it's local or, they're going on a trip with their pet. I mean, I have a whole series on my dog's TikTok page on local pet friendly places, and we will only go if it's pet friendly. And we have a lot of fun doing that, right? And I see all the time on social media, hey, does anybody know where there's a dog this or where I can bring my dog? So, with that, I do have a question for you. Do you work with anybody or have any initiative in your program to help educate pet parents on how to be a responsible pet owner when they're going to those pet friendly or dog friendly places?
Well, one thing is that, and that is actually key. When
Right.
you think about, and even like with the infrastructure, the like the template, um, we think about the pet people, the getting closest to the pet owner is through parks, and
Hmm.
meeting the pet owner where they're at, and creating programs that help to educate and help them to understand, what does it mean to be a responsible pet owner. That
Right.
is so absolutely vital to the to a pet friendly initiative, because there's the part of, it's about having respect for, and not everybody's going to be pet friendly. Not
Right.
everybody's going to want to have a whole lot of dogs at a restaurant. So you really have to think about that, and you really do need to appreciate the fact that, it is wonderful that we can do this, and how do we make sure that we're being respectful to everybody.
Right. And also, if you are that pet parent or that dog parent and like you're like me, I want to bring my dog everywhere, but I'm also respectful, like, hey, that might not be a dog friendly establishment. It's totally fine. We'll go somewhere
Mhm.
else that's dog friendly. And then also being respectful of any service animals. Right. And that's
Absolutely.
that's a part that is the responsibility of the dog parent or the pet parent. If you're out and about, don't just let your dog wander up to anybody, right?
Right. Right.
Always it's just such a simple thing. I always say ask, but that's really an important thing when it comes to that. And it just takes a little bit of education. It doesn't really
Yeah.
take that much. And you
Yeah.
can do it in a fun and friendly and kind way instead of getting into an altercation and yelling at somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I think it's really important. So go ahead.
I was going to say, actually, a few years pre-pandemic, we were working with a local trainer to help provide education in the community. And Canine Good Citizen certification actually was coming up with an urban version.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you learn to live in the city with your pet?
Yeah.
So,
It is because there's a lot more element to being in the city than if you're just walking in the country or suburbia, noises and a lot of people, and that can stress
mhm.
some dogs out. I think my dog should have been a city dog. He loves people. He loves the hustle and bustle of the city. I personally like to be in the woods walking with him. He's more excited to see people. It's pretty funny. It's so funny, but that's really cool. I didn't know they were doing the Canine Good Citizen. And that's another great initiative that if cities and towns and not every dog is going to pass that, but they could probably get close to passing it, right? Even if
Mhm.
they miss like one silly element of it. And then I could also help gauge, all right, well, your dog needs to work on this and you need to work on that in order to bring your dog into the office more or something like that. That's a really great tool.
Yeah, and
Um,
I mean, it actually too, and it's a great bonding tool too. I mean, it really. I know
yeah,
I took my dog through the Puppy Star all the way through Canine Good Citizen, and it
yeah.
really helped us to bond. And it was so much fun.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's also just another great thing that you can add on if you are traveling and you're like, "Hey, my dog has his canine good citizen,"
Mhm.
and let them know that. That might be something that they weren't even aware about. So, have you
Absolutely.
met any roadblocks with offering pet friendliness with any towns, cities, or corporate?
Maybe not roadblocks so much as a lack of awareness
Mm,
of the value, and the benefits that pet friendly can bring. And I think that's so key. That's like a really key part of the role that I play, and really helping people to become aware that there is so much more to pet friendly. And we think about from you know health and well-being. You think about, just you've got in a city alone, if you have people with pets and in the community, there's statistics that are showing healthier workforces, healthier residents, healthier communities, economic benefits, helping to be able to get that communicated, economic benefits alone. There's new jobs that are generated from pets. There's, people, there's pet care, there's veterinary careers. There's, think about pet spending. I mean, we know how much the pet industry drives. What was the number that we were just talking about? It's like
almost 139 billion annually in the U.S. That's from the APPA. Thank you very much for those numbers every year. We love getting those reports.
Yeah. So just helping to get that in the, people to understand that, yes, there is a reason. It's not just putting out a water bowl, that, there are real genuine reasons. Workplaces, there's statistics showing that there's reduced absenteeism, that productivity has increased and improved, and people collaborate more. And there's just, and think about housing. We were talking about housing, the difference, but there's real tangible benefits that can be seen. So not so much a roadblock, but it's a need for more awareness to businesses and cities.
It's incredible. So I know you mentioned earlier your amazing pet experiences, and I also saw something that piqued my interest because I've actually been to a couple of local meetings for it. When it comes to, unfortunately, like domestic abuse cases and shelters not being pet friendly if somebody has to flee their home. Is that something that you've also had an initiative with your amazing pet experiences?
Actually, during the pandemic, I actually went back to school and went back for organizational development. And one of the programs that I worked on was with a local abuse shelter, domestic abuse shelter, to help them become pet friendly.
Yeah.
And it really was eye-opening for me in going into that space, because the average statistic for people that will not leave a domestic violence situation is around 48% people will stay put because they will not leave their pet.
Yeah.
Either the pet will become the thing that is used to draw them back home, or it will become the victim, which still gives me chills.
Yeah.
And then
really sad.
The number of domestic violence shelters that are pet friendly is between 10 and 15% nationwide. It's so small a number. So that actually, when I worked with the domestic abuse shelter, we put together a plan and started in, incremental steps. They weren't sure about actually being able to bring pets onto the property and stay on the property. So we worked with, how do we do that? How do we make safe places for the pets and the people so that they can leave? So worked with the community on that. Also looked at just like baby steps. So we started out with pet therapy, and amazing stories. We actually were able to have a dog to start visiting the shelter who was a victim of domestic abuse herself. So her owner would come in on a week, and still does on a weekly basis, and is able to share the story. And it's like there's a kindred spirit. It's like people that are there, the guests of the shelter, are realizing that, okay, so she made it through, and she's this amazing, loving, beautiful. She's a pit bull, and she's just such an amazing dog. Yes, but she is just such a loving little creature, and it's just
wiggle butt.
And she's just seeing how she's able to help people open up and share, and children, and she's just amazing. So watching that, it was like one of those experiences where you leave, and it was just, I would leave and like so overwhelmed with what a difference that's making. But there's such a huge need, and that is actually a space I would love to work more with, because there's a huge need, and there's so many resources that are out there. But it's just helping those people to realize that they're there, and they can pull the support in.
And that's the part, is the resources, but also letting them the awareness know, because I know here on Long Island, I went to a meeting in Nassau County, and that was one of the things that they talked about. And one of the shelters was not necessarily pet friendly, where you're going to bring your pet with you, but they had a network of people that they could even like board a horse, like if you were in that kind of situation. And it was like they were protected. Their location where they went and all of that is super, super protected. So it was really incredible to learn that and hear that. And listening in on some of the statistics was really heartbreaking. But I know there's also organizations out there that are working towards that and making that better. And again, it's something that's difficult. It's not always going to be able to happen overnight, but as long as people are making strides to that, and the fact that you will want to do that and you've been doing that, that's really incredible.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about anything else about those amazing pet experiences? I know there was a bunch of things listed on there.
Oh my gosh. It's the opportunity is tremendous. There are so many ways that we can incorporate pet friendly into our daily practices, into our cities, and be creative, because when you start doing that, it's the the teams that you bring out, the people that you can bring out that have unbelievable ideas. And when you put these collective ideas together and base it on just the strengths of what's out there, it's amazing what can be accomplished.
Yeah.
So I just think there's so much potential.
I love it. I love it. So let me ask you this. If there's somebody that's watching or listening and now their wheels are spinning, they're like, wait, we want to add pet friendliness to our corporation, to our town, or maybe it's a pet professional that's like, I want to get involved. How do I work with? Is there a process of how somebody works with you? How do they get part of that, part of your amazing team?
Well, actually, you can reach out to me on my website and
Okay.
also LinkedIn. And I've got a Calendly. I do a Calendly. I never get
I
that
know.
one.
I always say it wrong too.
So I have a link, and I do a 30-minute complimentary consult.
Oh,
We
wow.
can sit back, kind of chat, and figure out what you want to do, and see if it's something that makes sense. If there's great ways we can, try to partner together, work together, or if there's just resources I can point you to, I'm always happy to chat with folks about that.
That's really great. And if anybody is thinking about getting into the pet friendly space, what kind of advice would you tell them?
Absolutely do it. Have a creative idea, and take a leap. Just really, because there's a need, and you can make a difference for people. So just believe in yourself, believe in the idea, and reach out to me if you'd like to chat, because I'm always happy to share.
I love it. Well, Karen, I really appreciate what you're doing for making our world pet friendlier and everything that you're doing. And I really am so happy that you came on here today and let everybody know what you're doing, because I think it's really important, and making our world pet friendlier so that there are less limitations so we can bring our pets everywhere, being responsible.
Being responsible. There we go. It has so much benefit, especially where we're living today. Promoting well-being and health is so important, and pets help us do that.
Oh, absolutely. And that could be like another 3-hour podcast
Oh, yeah.
alone on just that. All right. Well, we put all your contact information in the comment section. So if you're watching or listening, please reach out to Karen and get involved. And Karen, thank you so much for being here. And I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday in your pet friendly world.
Thank you. And thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Take care. Bye.